I never liked him. I don't actually know where she saw him, to be honest.
He had a hidden past and I could see that, but you never really could find out much about him.
We know that she had packed his bags more than 10, 12 times, but the type of person Jennifer was, she'd take him back in and she'd try and fix him, but he was manipulating her. I firmly believe he was, you know, if I can't have you, nobody's gonna have you. To think that he was able to do what he did in 7 minutes.
I drank me tears all the way up that motorway.
I couldn't believe it. I was just screaming and shit. Sorry.
Jennifer was a happy-go-lucky kid. She was well got with everybody. We were close, yeah. She knew deep down the two of us, I had her back, she had mine. So yeah, we got on very well.
I'm the oldest of 4. There's David, Claire and Jennifer. So I was the oldest, yeah, and Jennifer was the youngest. Jennifer was very active as a child. You couldn't ever walk with Jennifer around the village or around the community without her stopping to every single person knew her, and she knew every single person.
She got a job in a nursing home and she absolutely loved it. She loved getting up and going into work.
She was just an all-round great person and the profession suited her really, really well. She was very happy to be on her own. She got her own place to live. She was loving life. And then she met Murphy.
She met Gavin through a neighbour of hers. They weren't seeing each other long before he moved into her home. I thought it was very unusual, especially for Jennifer. She wouldn't want anyone in or around her kids, especially if they weren't known to them. So I thought that was very unusual that he moved in that soon.
We were in the middle of COVID, so people were turning a lot of attention to other things because, you know, everyone was worrying about COVID and everything. And I suppose in hindsight, it was one of the red flags.
I met him on 2 occasions at our family home, and I felt he was a bit standoffish and a bit, you know, didn't come across as a genuine person.
Give me 10 minutes with the person and I'll know whether I like them or not. There was something just artificial about him.
Something stood out about him, you know. He had a hidden past and I could see that, but I could never see him as a threat because he was only a little thing.
Murphy was not Jennifer's usual type. He wore lots of branded clothes. He was a very flashy person, which isn't something Jennifer had ever looked before. But perhaps having come out of this long-term relationship, she was looking elsewhere. She was looking to broaden her type. And she was interested in someone who was interested in her as well.
Jennifer loved going out on her nights out. She didn't do them very often because she had 2 children. So like it'd be, my mum might take the kids and she'd go out with her friends, or she went to her bike row ski 2 days a week. She went to her GAA 3 days a week. She had a match. She was out. She was always down in the house. But when she met Gavin, all of those things stopped.
Jennifer would always dress up if she was going anywhere. Most time we'd be in our gym gear for training or whatever, but she would always look after herself. She would have makeup on if she was going out with her friends or stuff like that. But it got to the stage where she just wasn't bothered. She wouldn't even go out with her friends. She was missing her sport. But there was always a good enough excuse for us to think it was okay.
But there's not really much they can do about it, because it might be that whoever that individual is doesn't necessarily want to hear it. Maybe they don't recognise it themselves yet. It can serve to sever the bonds with family and friends even further if they do address it. And so it really puts everyone in this really difficult position where, as a family member, as a friend, you want to be able to approach someone and highlight that what they're dealing with is not okay. But at the same time, you need to maintain those bonds.
I remember the only Christmas that he was ever in our house, and we all would always, from the time I can ever remember, we all sat as one family at the table, and we always had this extra table, and we'd put, like, my mum would always have put, like, you know, the dishes on it and stuff like that, and he sat at that table facing a wall while everybody else was sitting together.
She'd always be really on edge, especially if it came to the house by herself with the kids. Her phone would always be ringing, she'd always be picking up the phone. She was always like she was in a hurry.
There are some very telltale signs of coercive control in this relationship. Jennifer's family members say that Murphy was with her everywhere she went.
I remember events in the house where, like, he'd be sitting in one room and she'd have to be in that room, or if she walked out of the room and went to the back garden to the bouncy castle, he'd follow her, and he always had to be watching what she was doing. Jennifer was learning how to drive. We had all offered, you know, we all had full licenses, so my dad and myself, my brother, my sister, but Gavin, it was the control again. He needed to have control, he needed to be in the car, he needed to see where she was going.
I had one instant where she came here. She rang me and said, "Have you any paper stitches?" I said, "What's wrong with you?" She said, "I'm at to cut my leg with a Stanley knife." She was carrying Gavin's bag, supposedly a work bag, from the car up into the apartment, and the knife cut her leg. I would never have thought Jennifer would have been that person that would hide anything.
She had a mark on her cheek, and when I questioned her on it, she said her son had accidentally hit her with one of his tiles. I didn't believe her, because I actually questioned him, because her son was there and said, "Did you hit Mommy accidentally with one of your tiles?" And he looked at me and said, "No, I didn't."
So then she started to cover that up. She was buying special effects makeup to cover up her bruising, so we wouldn't have seen it.
Unfortunately, even though there are these warning signs, you never know how far it's going to go. And all it would take is one trigger moment for it to escalate beyond repair.
Murphy had previous convictions for domestic abuse, and we only found out this afterwards. He had lied to Jennifer and told her he had been in Spain and that he only returned. But the truth was, he had only gotten out of prison for serving a sentence for domestic abuse.
We know that she had packed his bags more than 10, 12 times, but the type of person Jennifer was, she'd try and fix him. He was manipulating her. She ended the relationship and had removed all his belongings. There was nothing belonged to him in the apartment, he was gone.
Jenny is a young woman. She's been subject to months and months of abuse by this man. She's scared of him at this point, but she builds up this courage to say no more, to say, "I'm leaving."
She was back up, she was dressed up, she had her makeup on, and she was going out with her friends for milkshakes. I was like, "You're going out with your friends with milkshakes, you're dressed like you're going out on a night out, you know?" But it was her taking back control of herself.
It shows how destitute Murphy has become at this point. He literally doesn't have a shower to use, and that's how he gets back in to Jenny's apartment. He's asking to use the shower. He literally has nothing to lose.
Jennifer, being the caring Jennifer, allowed him in to have the shower, and she went off and went around. She was driving around Finglas, waiting on him to be gone.
I rang Jennifer for some clothes for her daughter, as she was with me at the time, and she was on edge on the phone and saying she wasn't at home, and I said, I'll meet you at the house and we can get the clothes, and she said okay.
Jenny's friend hears all this commotion, hears Jenny screaming, "Stop, please don't do this." She's trying to knock on the door, trying to bash it down, but she just can't get in. That's when she looks up through the letterbox and sees Jenny slumped against the wall, and she can see Murphy trying to clear up all of the blood with a bath towel. Jenny's friend is still trying to shout to be let in. This is when Murphy finally acknowledges that she's there, swears at her before leaving the apartment out of the back. Jenny's friend says that he looks very strange. He's very grey and pale, his eyes are wide, and he looks manic.
When we were on the way, I got a phone call off a friend, and he had said that there was a lot of police and stuff at Jennifer's house to come quick. So as I entered Jennifer's estate, the whole place was just full of people, police, fire brigades, ambulance. I pulled up outside Jennifer's apartment. My mother, my son and her daughter was in the car. And as me and my mother went to approach the apartment, we were stopped by some guards. We were just shouting, what happened, let us in, let us in.
Claire rang me. She just said, Jennifer's had been stabbed. They won't let us in, they won't let us in to the apartment.
I have a mobile home in Wexford, and that Saturday morning I decided I'll go down. I left my phone in the car, and when I went to the car after an hour, there was 12 or 14 missed calls on it. So I rang Jason and I said, everything all right? I've missed call from me. He said, Dad, Jennifer's had been stabbed. I said, what? She's had been stabbed. So out of panic, I didn't know what to do. So I'm panicking up the road, and I get onto the motorway anyway, and there was a guard at checkpoint, or the guard stopped the car, and I says, I'm not going to be able to drive to Dublin, so I'm going to stop the guard and ask him will he give me an escort up. And I explained the situation to the guard. Amazing man. He said he couldn't escort me to hospital, but he would bring me to hospital.
I went straight to the hospital. Got to the hospital, there was nobody there. Guards were standing at the door, and they just said, you need to go into reception. And then this nurse came in, and she goes, oh, you're here for Jennifer Poole, who are you? I said, I'm her brother, and they brought me into this room. I sat in the room, and I'd say I was in the room for maybe 3-4 minutes, and this doctor came in with the guards, and they just said that Jennifer was dead.
When I was told she had died, I couldn't believe it. I was just screaming and shouting. Sorry.
The journey up the motorway was horrendous. You know, you're in fear of what's going on. You're anticipating what might be or might be, and then all of a sudden you get a phone call to say that she's dead. I drank me tears all the way up that motorway.
There was things that we only found out on that day about Gavin, things that he'd done on Jennifer through wounds and text messages and previous convictions. We only found out on that day.
Jenny's body was found to have 88 previous wounds that weren't consistent with her death, which means that she'd been being subject to significant, scarring abuse for a long time at the hands of Murphy.
The bruise on her jaw, the events that she never went to, the excuses she had, they were all red flags that we only realised when it was too late.
He's given them like a mandatory life sentence. What is that in Ireland? 18 to 20 years? Her children won't even be, they'll be only young adults. And the man that murdered their mummy is going to be walking around the streets again. The day of Jennifer's funeral, all of the businesses closed in the village. There was guards of honours, all the roads were closed around the area.
One thing I always remember was the crowds, the support and the community coming together for us as a family and for Jennifer.
Jason started this progress to get Jenny's Law, which would be amazing if it comes in. And it's not just because it's called Jenny's Law. We have experienced what other people we don't want to experience, and other women going through the same stuff.
Women can turn to this register and they can question, or they can ask any question and be told that the person has a previous conviction of domestic abuse.
Had Jenny known about Murphy's previous convictions, there's no way she'd have dated him. And that just highlights the need for people to be able to access people's criminal records. Murphy had lied about his, and so there was no way at that time that Jenny could have found out. It already exists in some countries and some territories, but it doesn't exist in the Republic of Ireland. And there is this need for a domestic violence disclosure service so that people can access these records and they can find out if their partner's been engaged with any of these kind of crimes beforehand. Because the reality is, if they've done it before, there's a fair likelihood that they'll do it again.
I miss everything about her, especially going to camogie or boxing, or just our regular trips in the car, or sing songs. But I miss absolutely everything, every day. I miss her.
I'd like Jennifer to be remembered for who she was, the happy-go-lucky person. As a father and daughter, we had an amazing time.
A fantastic mummy. A loving sister. And just an all-round amazing person.